Hey everyone, it's Scorpius and welcome back to another Path of Exile 2 guide. In today's video, we will finally take a look at the endgame version of the Ritualist Bleeding build. If you haven't leveled up by now, be sure to check out this video right here, which will help you get through the campaign. And once you're done with leveling and you're ready to get into the endgame, then today's video will provide you with a smooth transition to a good and viable endgame build. If you enjoy these guides, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the upcoming updates and guides. And if you have any questions or want to see me play Path of Exile 2, then join me live at twitch.tv/Scorpius_ENT. Okay, so let's begin with the abilities. If you guys have been going through my leveling guide, you're going to notice that the abilities are pretty much the same with some new additions like support gems and abilities. But the basic thing is there. The 1-2 combo that we usually do with Rake and Disengage and still here, which is our main combo for the rotation, which means that what you want to do here for the end game as well is you want to take as much distance as possible before you rake your enemies for higher magnitude of bleeding and more damage. So Rake is exactly that. You can dash to the target, it's going to slice them up. Anything that gets in contact with Rake is going to actually start bleeding, and due to our passive tree and our gear, the bleeding is going to be a lot more. So for Rake, the support gems that we added here are deep cuts for 75% more magnitude of the bleeding, which is insanely good. We've got heavy swing with 35% more melee physical damage. The reason why is because bleeding scales with physical damage. Then the third one, we've got brutality for the increase of the physical damage as well. Then we have See Red. See Red is something that I was experimenting with, and I was really scared in the beginning, giving all the monsters 15% attack speed and movement speed, especially in the beginning of the new league, but then GGG nerfed the monsters and this is definitely viable. Increasing 50% of the bleeding duration is really good here. If you don't like this play or you're not tanky enough, then you can go for close combat. It's a really good one as well here, or you can add a 6 link with both of these here. It's exactly how I'm running it right now. The second ability that we have here that is usually paired with Rake is Disengage, which jumps backwards, giving you some room for you to cast your Rake again so you can multiply your damage a little bit. And for Disengage, the support gems that we want are Ingenuity for the 30% cooldown reduction. Then we've got Concentrated Effect to deal some more damage in place when you do the flip. And lastly, we've got Envenom. I was experimenting with a lot of different support gems and I was inspired by different builds and stuff. And I tried Envenom and it just clicked. It made sense because physical damage is what you scale for more bleeding. Envenom has a 50% chance to apply poison on hit with Disengage, and Disengage is one of the abilities that we spam all the time. So if the target has bleeding and poison, both of those scale with physical damage as well, which is really good, and I've seen a lot of damage here, especially for bosses as well. Our third ability here is Spear Throw. Spear Throw is not actually a spell, it's something that you get from your spears anyway, and I've seen a lot of builds using different kind of spells like Spear Field or Explosive Spears, and because of the fact that I didn't want to do a ranged melee build, I just wanted to keep it pure melee. Throwing my own weapon kind of made sense to me, so I went with it and it's really good. Spear Throw simply throws your spear, dealing damage. If you have frenzy charges, which we do when we play with combat frenzy, at the end of that impact when you throw your spear, it's gonna detonate, explode, dealing a lot of damage, and it's really good for clearing. But to make it even better, the support gems that we want on this are Lacerate for a 50% chance of bleeding, which is gonna enhance our bleeding damage even more whenever they hit. Then we have Scattershot, so we can have more projectiles. Instead of 1, we're gonna have 3 now. Then we can put Heft for 30% more physical hit damage on it. And lastly, if you manage to unlock that, you can put Fork for even more projectiles. Therefore, the clearing combo is very simple. Rake, Disengage, Rake, Disengage. You get a couple of frenzy charges, you start throwing your spears, and rinse and repeat. Next up, we've got our Mark, the same one that we were leveling with. This one usually goes for rares and bosses. You can use it for mapping if you guys want. However, whenever you mark a target, what's going to happen is they're more prone for heavy stuns, and also if the target got heavy stunned or died, it's going to cause an explosion around it, so it's pretty decent for mapping as well. The support gems that we want on the Mark are Single Out, so we can have the armor broken equal to 10% of physical damage taken, which enhances the breaking the armor of the monsters, therefore dealing more damage. Then we have Physical Mastery for obvious reasons. It gives us +1 to all of our physical skills. And lastly, we've got Rupture, which aggravates bleeding. For anybody who doesn't know what aggravate bleeding means, is whenever you hit a monster, it's going to start bleeding. If that same monster starts walking, moving, running, whatever, it's called aggravate bleeding, which is going to increase the damage that you deal with bleeding. So this support gem on Bloodhound's Mark is really good. Next, we've got our execute. That's how I call it. It's called Blood Hunt normally, but I call it my ulti execute ability because that's exactly how we're using it in the endgame build. This is usually only used for rares and bosses. But what it does is simply lunges to the target, hitting them with an insanely strong hit, consuming all the bleeding that they suffered, and based on how much bleeding they suffered, it deals damage. Really good ability to have for bosses and rares especially. And the support gems that we want here are Bloodlust for 30% more melee physical damage against bleeding enemies. Execute, as I said, 50% more damage with hits against enemies that are on low life. Low life in this game is 35% and under. So it's really good to have Execute here as well. We have Hourglass. It's not the traditional style of Blood Hunt. I know you can take away Hourglass if you don't like the cooldown. I don't use Blood Hunt that often. I just stack the bleeding on the monsters and use it once or twice, but that once or twice is so much more powerful. 30% more damage for a 10-second cooldown on Blood Hunt. It just makes it feel like an ulti. But if you don't like Hourglass, you can replace this for Momentum, which gives you 40% more damage if you cover the distance that it wants it to, which is 2 meters whenever you're using Blood Hunt, which is really good. I'm using both of them here. So if you unlock the fourth one, you can go for Momentum and Hourglass. It's gonna feel so much more powerful. Next up, we've got our first aura, and that's Herald of Blood. While this is active, killing an enemy with blood loss, which is practically anything and everything that moves around us that we hit with Rake or with our spear, will start causing bloody explosions that deal physical damage, and our gear and everything scales with physical damage. So this is a must-have aura, is our main aura to run. The support gems that we want on Herald of Blood to make it even more powerful is one of the new ones, Hemo Crystal, that came with the Huntress. What Hemo Crystal does, it consumes the bleeding of the monsters to create even more explosives, and it does not deal bleeding, which we don't really care about it. The reason why I've put this and it works like a charm for me right now is because what it says the skills that you use yourself which can cause damaging hits. So this is not going to interfere with how Herald of Blood works, because in order for the Hemo Crystals to get activated, Herald of Blood needs to hit first. And the way Herald of Blood hits is when a monster dies from bleeding. So what usually happens is first monster is suffering from bleeding, it dies, Herald of Blood triggers, starts exploding everything, and while that's happening, Hemo Crystal is adding to those explosions. Next, we've got Deadly Herald, just 30% more damage on Herald of Blood, which is really great. Next, we've got Bone Shrapnel, and this one is in here because of one piece of gear that it's mandatory to get for this build to work due to the Combat Frenzy aura that we're going to see in a second. What it does, it deals 25% of pinned target's maximum life as physical damage, so it further enhances the damage of Herald of Blood. And pairing this with a boots called Bushwhack, which you're going to see the last mod there, it says physical damage is pinning, and we're only dealing physical damage, which means that the monsters are going to be pinned 24/7. So with these boots and the Bone Shrapnel, Herald of Blood is going to be dealing a lot more damage. We're going to get into the pinning again in a second whenever we see Combat Frenzy, but the last support gem that I use here on Herald of Blood is Magnified Effect, which is an obvious one for 30% more area of effect. If you guys don't have the boots yet, I think they're very cheap, 1 or 2 exalted, so make sure that you get them. But if you cannot for any reason, or you're playing SSF or whatever, I would replace Bone Shrapnel with Magnified Effect until you guys manage to get your Bushwhack boots. The next aura that we have is Blood Boil. This is taken from our Ascendancy, as you guys see on the very right corner is Corrupted Life Force, and GGG actually fixed Blood Boil to be able to stack with Herald of Blood. In the beginning, it wasn't working, which was a little bit underwhelming. What it does, it creates blood balls on them, and whenever the enemies die, it creates corrupted blood that starts actually popping and exploding, so even more explosions. And this one deals damage based on their maximum life as physical damage. So it really pairs beautifully with our build here. The support gems that we want on Blood Boil are Persistence, so we can have 40% more skill effect duration of Blood Boil, and we have Swift Affliction, 30% more non-ailment damage over time. Don't forget, Blood Boil puts corrupted blood. It doesn't put bleeding. Bleeding is a damaging ailment, corrupted blood is not, so it deals 30% more damage on the corrupted blood. The last 2 auras that we have is Wind Dancer for our defensive, obviously, because this build can feel a little bit squishy, but there are 2 layers of defense that we actually build, and one of them is evasion. And if we care about evasion, we care about Wind Dancer. Wind Dancer gives us evasion, and not only that, whenever we get hit, it knocks back everything that is hitting us, which is really, really good for our Rake and our disengage and all that playthrough. So Wind Dancer is a must here, and the support gems that we go for is Maim, so we can maim the targets. I added Arm's Length here because it gives 40% more knockback distance, which also helps us with Rake once again. You can go for a Magnified Effect here. If you don't have anywhere else to put Magnified Effect, then this is going to be a good call right here. But if you do have Magnified Effect on Herald of Blood, don't worry about Wind Dancer, this is the priority here. And lastly in our kit, we have a brand new addition, Combat Frenzy, the aura that generates charges. This is the aura that makes spear throw tech possible, plus the bushwhack boots here for the pinning, because what it does is Combat Frenzy generates you charges if you do one of the following things: freezing the enemies, electrocuting them, or pinning them. We cannot freeze them, we cannot electrocute them, but we can pin them. And the way that we do that is through these boots. So how this whole tech works is whenever you're dealing damage, your boots are going to start pinning the enemies. Whenever you start pinning the enemies, Combat Frenzy is going to be active and it's going to start generating charges for you. Whenever it does generate charges for you, then Spear Throw is going to be dealing even more damage because they detonate. The support gems that you can add on Combat Frenzy is Vitality for 1% maximum life per second, which is really good for our survivability. We've got Cannibalism, which does practically the same thing, but 2% on it. And then we have Profusion, which has 50% chance to grant an additional charge. Now, if you don't have enough spirit to run all of these support gems, I would say Profusion is your #1 priority to put on Combat Frenzy, and then you start slowly adding these two as well. Remember, I told you there's two things that we care about defense in this build. One of them is evasion. So the majority of the gear that I'm going to show you, we will focus on evasion. The second thing that we care about is life regen. So just to give you an example, for the helmet, the chest, and the gloves, we care about evasion, we care about maximum life, we care about resistances, and we care about leeching on physical attack damage. These are the 4 mods that you want to go for. Anything else is extra, anything else, we don't care about it right now. The boots, however, need to be these specific boots. Of course, you can get boots with evasion and the same stats that I just said about the other 3, but we do need the physical damages pinning, so get yourself a bushwhack for like 2 exalted orbs and call it a day. You never need to think about the boots again for this build. For the belt, again, maximum life, some strength is going to be good for increasing your maximum life as well, and your resistances so you can be able to cap, and if you can get life regeneration per second, that's also really good. How the rings should look is things like flat physical damage, maximum life, some attributes like dexterity, intelligence, strength, and then making sure that you cap your resistances. So almost all of my rings look very similar. So as you can see, this is the first one. This is the second one with some evasion rating here. Also, Leech is really good on the rings too, if you can find them. The one ring that it's also a unique that you definitely need to invest into is the Venopuncture Iron Ring. This gives us flat physical damage, strength, both of these are perfect so far, and 19% increased magnitude of bleeding you inflict. Don't forget that all of these stats, all of these ring stats plus the amulet is also going to get a 25% increased bonus from Mystic Attunement from our Ascendancy. The amulet, once again, is going to be very similar. We've got evasion rating, we've got maximum life, and here you definitely want to add some spirit because we have 3 auras that need spirit. Don't forget the Blood Boil is actually free. If you want to use Vitality and Cannibalism, you're going to need even more spirit. So getting something like 40 spirit on the amulet is really good. We got some chaos resistance here to help us out as well. And we have life regeneration per second once again. The anointment on the amulets, I'm going for Bestial Skin. Bestial Skin is really good early on for defense. It increases our evasion rating from the body armor by 100%. Really good. At some point, we're going to see it in a second in the passive tree, but at some point, we're going to actually progress towards that direction. So whenever we do that, we're going to be able to change the anointments. But another one that is really good that I have added it here is the Blood Tearing one, which increases your damage massively, but that's very expensive. So for now, Bestial Skin is really good to have on the amulet. So the spear is very straightforward. You'll want to try and find as much physical damage as you can possibly get on the spear. Increased physical damage and flat physical damage. But also, very, very important, is we have grants life per enemy hit and gain some life per enemy killed. And then the last mod that you can potentially look for that I couldn't find or it was too expensive was getting more levels on melee skills. And lastly, we've got our shield here that gives me a lot of evasion rating. It gives me some strength. You can focus on maximum life and getting your resistances capped as well. Now for the runes on the gear, things are very, very simple. You just slap iron rune on everything that you can, that especially if they have high evasion, apart from the spear and the gloves. For the gloves, you can look for the wolf talisman that increases your magnitude of bleeding. And for the spear, you can add physical damage in there. Moving on to the main thing, which is the passive skill tree. And we're going to start with the Ascendancy here. I got Blood Boil first so I can be able to deal more damage whenever I'm clearing low tier maps. Then I made sure that I got my third ring slot. Then I'm going to go for Mystic Attunement. And lastly, we're going to go for Wildwood Persistence, which this is going to enhance our tankiness even more. Like we said, we're actually stacking life recovery and leeching. So this is perfect for our build. Now, for the remaining of the tree, things are very simple. We only care about bleeding. So bleeding magnitude, damage of damaging ailments. We care about those. And we care about our defensive, which is evasion. So the priorities that I would go for is, first of all, Stalk and Leap. Then you're going to make your path over to Adaptable Assault, and these two combo together are going to increase your damage of Spear Throw, which is also going to increase the damage of Rake, and vice versa. The next priority here is for defense. You want to go for Escape Velocity. Then you're going to focus on damage. We've got the Maiming Strike and all of this cluster right here for the spear. Once you're done with this spear cluster, then you're going to route back over here so you can get both of these. Wasting and Fast Acting Toxins are going to increase your damage significantly. They increase the duration and damage of damaging ailments, and bleeding is a damaging ailment. Then you can get yourself Bloodletting into Lay Siege. Since we're using a shield, whenever you're blocking, it's going to increase your damage. And then we're going to make our way down to Coated Arms into both of these here. Aggravate Bleeding deals even more damage than regular bleeding. And then we're going to finish up this side of the tree with these two, Fast Metabolism and Goring, which is adding even more to A, our physical damage, and B, our life leech. With both of those, start climbing up the tree right here to get ourselves another jewel into Acrobatics for the evasion. What this does, there's a lot of misunderstanding for Acrobatics, can evade all hits. It doesn't mean it will actually evade everything. You're never going to get hit. So instead of only evading physical melee hits, you're going to be able to evade projectiles and all types of hits. That's what this means. However, this is going to reduce your evasion by 75%, which means your build needs to be in a state where you have a lot of evasion. And obviously, if you're going to go for acrobatics, we want to make sure that we get enhanced reflexes that increases our evasion rating by 30%. Once you get to this point, you want to go down here so you can get Bestial Skin organically, since we're this close. And whenever that happens, now you're free to change your anointment from Bestial Skin to the other one that gives you even more damage. Now, the jewels here are also insanely important for our damage and our defense. One example is this one right here. Global physical damage increased, amount of life leached increased, and magnitude of bleeding that you inflict increased as well. And the jewel that's very similar to the other one is this one. Again, it has global physical damage, it has magnitude of bleeding. What's different here, instead of life leached, it's life regeneration rate. So you can get both of these jewels, slap as many as you possibly can, and it's going to increase both your defense and your damage by quite a lot. And with that being said, I think we covered absolutely everything that you guys need to know about this build to become viable for the end game. If you like these guides, make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out the future content I'm going to be releasing. If you want to see me playing this build or any other build in Path of Exile 2, join me up on twitch.tv/Scorpius_ENT. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Peace.